Hey there, dum-dums, and welcome to episode 53 of Pop-Tards, the weekly conversation show wherein we spew randomly about any given topic. This week's topic is Sucker Punch! And I'm your host, JD. With me this week is...
Sly.
However, we are missing the ever-glorious Uncle Dunklenuts. So he has been filling in by a can of beans. So there he is.
They're tasty.
Tastier than Uncle Dunklenuts. So, anyway, so we're going to be talking about Sucker Punch. Oh, I also want to give a shout out to my new hairdo done by Sly. She did a little leopard print.
Because he's wild.
So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Alright, anyway, Sucker Punch is a film that you have probably heard of, and it's directed by Zack Snyder, who also directed
Watchmen and 300.
And Dawn of the Dead, the remake. 3 excellent films. I love all 3 of these movies. I love Zack Snyder as a director. I know these films get a lot of flack for whatever reason. I know he does a lot of fast to slow motion to fast again, but that doesn't bother me. I always enjoyed it. It gets me going a little bit. But anyway, so it's also written by Zack Snyder as well as Steve Shibuya, whose most fantastical film credit is that he's miscellaneous crew on Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is one of my favorite 80s horror movies. So if you haven't seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space, as you have not...
I have not.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Should be ashamed of yourself. You should go see it. So we should actually do a double take on Killer Clowns. That's a great movie.
Agreed.
Anyway, I also apologize. I've been sick for the past couple of days. This means sick. I've been sick.
Totally something else in sign language. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
but, not that.
So anyway, it's starring Emily Browning, Abby Cornish, Jenna Malone,
Vanessa Hudgens, Carla Gugino, John Hamm, and Jamie Chung, the only Asian.
The only Asian. Well, here's the thing, audience. I was writing down the our little tip, so we can read from the board. And I had gotten through most of the cast and forgot Jamie Chung. So she whispers, "Could you please add the Asian girl?" So I had to go back and do that.
Sister, Not so much.
She's not a sister. Anyway.
Well, it's,
So anyway, let's start off with how we felt about it going in. We saw the trailers for this months and months and months ago, and I was just erect with excitement for this film. How were you?
It's true, you were. I was excited about it. I thought the trailer was very intriguing. I was, pumped up to see all the hopeful storyline that went with the beautiful visuals.
But yeah. So yeah, we were both really excited for it.
As mentioned in our last review, actually.
Oh.
We were pumped up because Abby Cornish was also in Limitless.
Oh, that's right. She was in Limitless. And she didn't really have much to do in that film, but I was really hoping for more from her from this film, which I think we got. I think we absolutely...
She was my favorite amongst the girls this time.
Amongst the sluts, yeah. I think of all of the slutty schoolgirls, she was my favorite.
She's a little tougher, though, than the rest of them.
She was a tough slut. She was much better in this film. So, alright, so we were both excited to go into this film. Let's start off with our positives. Let's start off with something nice. So, what do you think?
Absolutely maintained its visual beauty throughout.
Yep.
I personally like the soundtrack. I know you're a little...
The soundtrack is great. It's great. It gets your heart going. The problem with the soundtrack is that most of the songs are redos of songs you already know. So Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, remade again for this film. They had Bjork, Army of Me, which is a great song. So the soundtrack was good. It wasn't original. There's an issue. Erica, what else you got?
Well,
you like the soundtrack?
I think that's...
I'm going to shoot down all your positives. Go.
The lack of originality was kind of a carry-through theme,
yes.
So that is not a positive. Oh. But, like the fight choreography, the fight scenes, thought the CGI was actually pretty well done. And I liked the robot with the bunny face, but that was in the trailer, so it just kind of carried through.
Yeah, there was a robot with a bunny face, and that was pretty cool. So the trailer, what you get in the trailer, all right? which is probably playing behind us, hopefully, you get more of that throughout an hour and a half, however long this film actually is. Other than that, though, there's really no story. It's basically, and I guess we'll move on to our negatives.
Yes.
My biggest negative for this film is the plot is basically akin to a cartoon character jumping from television show to television show. It jumps from genre to genre for no reason whatsoever. It's unexplained, and you're just supposed to accept it for what it is. Now, 16-year-old JD, who is much like 33-year-old JD, likes zombie Nazis, he likes Lord of the Rings, he likes samurais with Gatling guns, and futuristic Western robot train heists. All of that sounds amazing to 16-year-old / 33-year-old JD. But if there's no reason for any of it to be happening, I don't give a shit. So it's visually arresting, but the writer needs to be arrested. Yuck, yuck. That was my one-line Facebook post as to how I felt about this film. And, you know, so anything... All right, so the problem here is Quentin Tarantino gets a lot of flack because he takes things that he likes and he makes movies out of it. I like that he does that because I think that anytime he does that, he still adds something to the film. He adds his own flair to it.
And I think he chooses actors that add a lot of flair to it as well. The casting is,
absolutely,
I think, pretty standardly well done.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, good point. The problem with Zack Snyder in this is that he's just throwing everything he possibly can at you, the audience, without any way to tie it all together. There's nothing impressive story-wise here. It's basically, I like this stuff, I like this stuff, I like this stuff, and I'm going to throw in some panty shots. Boom, you're done. And that's the show you get. And it's really embarrassing. While I was sitting here watching it with her, I was embarrassed by the writing. I actually got flushed in the cheeks a little bit, like, oh, this is kind of awful. Help me out here. You got anything?
Should we dive further into negatives? I know you had mentioned within the story, because there's like a 3 storylines within the main storyline, and one is the actual reality. And we discussed, and you mostly had observed that in the reality, it could have stood to be just shot actually more realistic to separate it from all the fantasy. Do you want to go?
Well, yeah. The problem is there's a story within a story within a story, right? So there's the reality that the antagonist. The protagonist herself takes place in, and then she goes into the asylum, and then there's the reality of that asylum, and then there's the reality within that of their fantasy world, and then there's, you know, every time she has to do a dance, then it becomes a giant action set piece. So there's all these different layers of reality, not unlike an onion, but there is no, you know, when you're seeing just the onion, it's not filmed realistically, and I feel like if he had filmed it in a more realistic style where there wasn't any makeup, there was no slow motion, there were no effects, all that sort of stuff, then there would be a starker contrast to when you actually went into the false, you know, the fantasy world.
Yeah. And from the beginning, there's no grittiness within the main character that makes you think that she would have the imagination to go in those directions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a 20-year-old girl. She's literally 20 years old as a character, even though the actress is in her mid-30s. And she's wearing pigtails to like a 12-year-old. Well, that's kind of the problem with the whole film, is the lack of originality, even down to the quotes. What were some of the quotes?
Yes.
Let me help you out. Don't write a check with your mouth that your ass can't cash, and if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. To which I thought was a really cool quote in the trailer, but then Wedge decided to let me know that that was not actually written by the writers of the film. It's a JFK quote. So even the one thing that I thought was really cool, story-wise, or at least writing-wise, was also stolen. So unoriginal from top to bottom. A Geek Boys fantasy, no doubt, absolutely. Short skirts, anime type action, zombie Nazis, anything that you could possibly want as a fanboy is in this film. However, if you like story, not so much. But would you still recommend it?
I would recommend, if you're okay with it being just visually glorious and that's it, go see it. And I enjoyed it for that.
I did enjoy it. The more I've been away from the film, the more time I've had to realize about the story and the unoriginality, or lack of originality. But I have to say, when I was sitting there watching it, I enjoyed it. I actually felt pretty good about it. It wasn't until the credits rolled and I was wiping the sperm off of my jeans that I went, oh wait, there was no substance to this.
We're doing trash bags whenever we go to the movies now, just so.
It was basically porn. That's what it is. That's perfect. Yes.
But you know what?
It's
if
porn.
it wasn't quite enough though, because when any of the dancing came up, it just started with a little sway and cut.
Yeah.
Cut to the next story.
Well, it's geek porn. It's not actual porn. It's not actually arousing porn. It's just, we'll say that more, arousing porn. It was just geek porns.
I'm confused.
It's a phrase.
Okay.
You're too literal. Anyway, this is geek porn. You know, if you're watching, you know what I'm talking about. She doesn't know, but you know.
I'm a nerd.
Well, it's not nerd porn, I'll give you that. It's not. Nerd porn would just be a lot of mathematics. This is geek porn. Yes. Alright, so we would recommend it if you've got nothing better to do. It's better to see this in the theater than it is to maybe download it, because the only stuff you're going to get out of this is by the visuals, and you need the big screen for that. So go to the theater and check it out if you want to just masturbate to geek porn.
And if you're 15... and haven't quite reached that intellectual... Well, I shouldn't say that. That's...
Go on. What? I can't wait to see where this is going.
If you haven't seen enough yet because of your short life...
then maybe this is all original for you.
Yes, exactly.
Right, yes. Okay,
that's
good point. Good. Sheesh. So yes, if you're not aware of everything that this is pulling from, you'll enjoy it. That's it for this week. I'm your host, JD. With me this week was...
Bye.
And also some beans. Thank you, Uncle Dunkle Nuts. We'll talk at you later. That was a fucking mess. What was that?